Have you ever had a moment where a tiny unfinished task just wouldn't leave your mind? Maybe it was a message you forgot to reply to, or a book you just started but never finished. And no matter how busy your day was, that one little thing kept showing up in your head like a pop up ad you couldn't close. Why does this happen? Why do unfinished tasks bother us so much more than the ones we complete? A story that will not only explain this mysterious mental phenomenon but might also change the way you manage your task forever. It's a story about a woman named Evelyn Carter, a small town journalist from Maine. And what happened to her on one ordinary Wednesday morning was anything but ordinary. It's also a story of how your brain quietly reminds you, hey, you still haven't finished that. This mental reminder has a name. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. And once you understand it, you'll realize that your mind has been playing this little psychological trick on you for years. So let's begin the story. Evelyn Carter loved her morning routine, a steaming cup of black coffee, her favorite fountain pen, and a small leather notebook where she'd write down everything she needed to do. She was a journalist working for a local paper, the Hallow Falls Gazette. Nothing glamorous, just stories about lost dogs, school events, and the occasional town hall meeting. But Evelyn loved her work, and more importantly, she loved order. Every task had a time, every note had a place. That morning, she had three simple tasks. Number 1. Email her editor back about the headline change. Number 2. Pick up the dry cleaning. And number 3. Finish writing the article about the mayor's new tree planting campaign. Easy. She could do all that before lunch. She opened her laptop, clicked on her email, started typing. But then her phone rang. It was her sister Emily. Quick chat, nothing major. By the time she hung up, Evelyn forgot she had started the mail. She closed her laptop, grabbed her keys, and headed out to get the dry cleaning. But as she stood in line, something strange happened. Her mind kept going back to the mail. She hadn't sent it. She wasn't even sure if she saved the draft. It wasn't urgent. Her editor wouldn't even noticed. And yet, that half-written email kept poking her like a splinter in the brain. Why? What Evelyn experienced was something that psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. This psychological effect was discovered in the 1920s by a young psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik. One day, while sitting in a cafe in Vienna, Zeigarnik noticed something interesting. Waiters could remember complex meal orders without writing them down, but only until the bill was paid. Once the task was complete, the memory of it vanished. So she did an experiment. She gave people simple tasks like solving puzzles or stringing heads. Some of them were allowed to finish the task, others were interrupted in the middle. Guess what happened? The people who were interrupted remembered the details of the task way more than those who completed them. So the conclusion? Unfinished task stays in your mind longer than completed ones. But why? Because your brain doesn't like loose ends. It keeps reminding you about them because deep down it wants closure. That's exactly what was happening to Evelyn. The email wasn't a big deal, but her brain had opened a mental tab and it wasn't going to let her forget until she clicked send. The Zeigarnik effect is your brain's way of saying, hey, we didn't finish that, let's go back. But here's the real kicker. This effect doesn't just apply to emails or calls. It affects your goals, your dreams, and your relationships. Ever wonder why you can't stop thinking about that project you ever started or the one conversation you should have had? Yeah, that's the Zeigarnik effect. By the time Evelyn returned home, she had checked off two of her three tasks. Dry cleaning, done. Article, half written, but she was working on it. But that email, still hanging there, like a cloud. She opened her laptop. There it was. Half a sentence. A blinking cursor, no subject line. She could have just finished it in 30 seconds, but now she was weirdly tired. Her brain was foggy. She got up, made some tea for herself, scrolled on her phone for a bit, then decided to take a short nap. Except she couldn't sleep. Her brain kept tugging her back to that stupid email. Not because it was important, but because it was unfinished. That's what the Zeigarnik effect does. It creates mental tension, and your brain hates tension. That tension can lower your focus, make you anxious, even disturb your sleep, because your brain is like a to-do list with feelings. And incomplete tasks are like red notifications that just won't go away. Evan eventually got up, sighed, and hit send. instantly felt relieved. The tension disappeared. Her mind felt lighter and calmer. That tiny moment became a big lesson. Days passed, but Evelyn couldn't stop thinking about that experience. She started noticing how often it happened. Every time she left the laundry halfway, every time she paused while journaling, every time she started something and didn't finish. Her brain wouldn't let it go, so she started using it. She began writing incomplete sentences in her notebook when she had writer's block. Strangely enough, the Zeigarnik effect pulled her back to those ideas later. She wanted to finish them. She would stop a paragraph in the middle on purpose so her mind would stay hooked on the idea. This technique became her secret weapon for fighting procrastination. The logic is simple: start something small, leave it incomplete. Let your brain obsess over it. Your mind wants closure, so it will naturally push you to return. That's why it's so hard to stop thinking about half finished projects. But once you understand that tension, you can use it. Let's say you want to start exercising. Don't plan a full 1 hour routine. Just put on your shoes, do one push up, then stop. Let the Zeigarnik effect do the rest, because now your brain has opened a tab and it wants to finish. Same with writing. Want to write a book? Write one sentence, then close the document. Your brain won't leave you alone until you come back to it. And it works in reverse too. If your head feels cluttered, it might be because of all the unfinished tasks piling up like open browser tabs. Try these. Make a closure list. Write down all tasks you have started but never finished. Finish one thing today, no matter how small. Break big goals into smaller parts and finish at least one. The magic isn't in the size, it's in the closure. Because when you finish something, your brain rewards you. And when you leave things hanging, it keeps reminding you. That's the Zeigarnik effect. So, a few months later, Evelyn stood by her window, sipping coffee, watching the snowfall. Her editor had just promoted her to the senior writer. Not because she worked harder than anyone else, but because her articles were sharper, more focused, more complete. She smiled, remembering that half-written email from weeks ago. Who would have thought such a small moment would teach her such a big lesson? The unfinished things in life aren't just tasks, they are whispers. They are reminders from your brain saying, "You started this, let's finish it." And when you listen to those whispers, everything changes. So the next time your mind feels noisy or a tiny task keeps poking at your thoughts, don't ignore it. It's not just a core, it's the Zeigarnik effect. And maybe, just maybe, it's your mind's way of leading you back to the life you were meant to complete.